Hello, friends. Do you have a moment so that we may discuss our Lord and Savior Minarchy? No, seriously, I'm just kidding. Hi, my name's Rick Robinson. I am the general manager of KLRNradio.com. We are probably the largest independent podcast network that you've never heard of. We have a little bit of everything, and by that, what I mean to tell you is we have news, pop culture, special events, conspiratainment, true crime, mental health shows, drama productions, and pretty much everything in between. So if you're looking for a new podcast home to grab a little bit of everything that you love all in one place, come check us out. You can find us on X under @KLRNradio. You can find us on our Rumble and our YouTube channels under the same names. You can also find us at KLRNradio.com and pretty much every podcast catcher known to man. So again, feel free to come check us out anytime you like at KLRNradio.
Are you ready to reach for the stars? Tune in to The Lost Wanderer, the #1 monthly podcast on good pods in astronomy. Join our host, Jeff, as he takes you on an interstellar adventure to explore the mysteries of space and the wonders of science. From rocket launches and distant galaxies to the latest discoveries in astronomy, each episode is a thrilling ride through the cosmos. Don't just gaze at the stars. Come explore the universe with us. Follow The Lost Wanderer wherever you get your podcasts, and let's discover the stars together.
My dad was really, really special, and I loved my dad a lot.
I'm proud of him, and that even though he isn't here with us, but he died as a true hero.
I miss everything about him.
In the moment that the officers and I had to come see the children, my biggest reaction was, I don't have 7 arms. I have 7 children who just lost their father, and I don't have 7 arms to wrap around them.
I'm Frank Silla, chairman of the Stephen Silla Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Our foundation is committed to delivering mortgage-free homes for Gold Star families and fallen first responder families.
To not have to worry financially is a huge peace of mind. The thought of, what in the world will I possibly do to pay the bills? How will I possibly let the children have a life that feels normal? I don't want them to have to quit their piano lessons or their basketball. I don't want them to feel that we have to move into a little apartment and struggle financially in addition to the emotional weight.
There are over 1,000 families that need our help. Tunnel to Towers is honoring those heroes that risk their lives by providing them with mortgage-free homes.
Those who serve us and then lay down their lives protecting our freedoms and our safety, the least we can do is $11 a month to give them that peace of always knowing there's a home, there's that sanctuary when life feels like it's been tipped upside down, because it has, when you lose a parent in the line of duty, to know you can go home, you can be safe, there's no risk of losing your home. That's a peace of mind that I can't believe you can get for $11 a month.
I'd like to ask you to contribute $11 a month to support their efforts.
Please donate $11 a month by calling 1-844-BRAVEST or visit tunneltotowers.org.
Independence. With that declaration, America was born. Inspired by a belief in the God-given rights of every human being. That among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Our government was established to secure these rights and for the good that comes from exercising them well. This is why the founders of our great nation chose independence. As do we. Hillsdale College accepts no government funding because independence makes possible the good to which we aspire. Hillsdale College, pursuing truth and defending liberty since 1844.
Ready to learn some medieval combat, kiddo? You bet, Dad. Let's do this.
You know, spending quality time with your kids is important, but finding a fun and safe way to do it can really be a challenge. That's where halberds come in. Halberds are the perfect way to bond with your kid while teaching them about history and physical fitness. Plus, they're a blast to play with. So next time you're looking for some family fun activity, grab a halberd and get ready to make some memories.
Come on, Dad. Round 2.
Halberds, bringing families together one medieval battle at a time. This commercial brought to you by the KLRNradio.com Ad Council.
Hi, everyone. This is JJ, the co-founder of Good Pods. If you haven't heard of it yet, Good Pods is like Goodreads or Instagram, but for podcasts. It's new, it's social, it's different, and it's growing really fast. There are more than 2 million podcasts, and we know that it is impossible to figure out what to listen to. On Good Pods, you follow your friends and podcasters to see what they like. That is the #1 way to discover new shows and episodes. You can find Good Pods on the web or download the app. Happy listening.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
The following program contains coarse language and adult themes. Listener discretion is advised.
Capitol steps, Rick's calling out the truth, no time for regrets. He's got fire in his voice and facts in his hand, talking sense to the people all across this land. It's the Rick Robinson Show, where truth lies high. No spin, no script, just a needle in the sky. DC to Tulsa and OKC, he's calling it out with a mic and a mission and a whole lot of clout. This is Heartland Radio, raw and real. Tune in, speak up, and feel what we feel. Cutting through the lies, shining a light where the shadow hides. With guests on the line and callers on deck, he's the voice of the folks DC tends to forget. Grab your coffee, raise a flag, he's standing tall. The white flag news with the backbone voice of the free. Rick's got the pulse of democracy. It's the Rick Robinson Show, both on and Ray. Truth bombs dropping like a racing parade. From the plains to the power, who's speaking it loud with a mic and a message that'll make you proud. It's on for the people.
Good morning, America. My name is Rick Robinson. This is the Rick Robinson Show. We are live on KLRNradio.com. Oh, and happy CERN Day, bitches. That's right. This day in 2008, CERN fired off the Hadron Collider for the first time, which means that's when our world pretty much ended. We just haven't figured it out yet. You don't believe me? Go listen to Juxtaposition sometime. Anyway, so we're here. We're live. And it's Wednesday, otherwise known as Chat Lives Matter Day. It looks like we've already got an Andrew sighting in the chat. We've got a BZ sighting in the chat. And yeah, I'm wearing this was one of my favorite colors when I was a kid. My mom, because I have hazel eyes, my mom was like, when you wear orange shirts, it looks really good. So yeah, orange has kind of been like low-key one of my favorite colors. That and orange always reminded me of Catherine Bach, a.k.a. Daisy Duke. So, yeah, there's reasons. Anyway, pardon me a moment. Sorry, it's going to be there's not enough coffee in the world kind of day today because I have lots of work today and and this always happens to me and I don't know why. So normally I take most of Mondays off. Normally I try to do a nighttime show. Didn't work out this week because I was helping a friend in the city. So didn't get home till like almost midnight. Fun times. And then I couldn't sleep anyway. So I did my show yesterday, was like, I'm going to go take a nap, and was pretty much worthless for the rest of the day. So I got up this morning, or tried to. got some grocery shopping done, got all the things that I needed to do to make sure that, we've got the things around the house that we need since we're in the beginning of the month and it's time to do all those crazy fun things again. And then I looked up and realized it was like almost showtime. And I'm like, crap. So, yeah, so I'm still really worn out from having an insomnia about the other night, but we're doing this damn thing anyway because I took most of last week off and I'm going to try to quit doing that. I'm going to try to quit doing that. And apologies for to the Manorama crew last night. Apparently, I was invited onto the show, but I didn't know that because when they put out, because they were doing their first ever game show, they put out the team captains and the folks that were supposed to be on the teams, and I didn't see my name anywhere. So I made other plans and was back in the city helping people again last night. So anyway, all right. So anyway, so yeah, you're always being censored. It's just how we roll. Or you might be actually. That's not our fault. So X the supposed bastion of free speech controls when certain things actually make it through to the chats that I can see from this screen. And it's weird because sometimes I'll just put like a couple of exclamation points in something and it doesn't like it because there's more than one. So yes, the chat can be kind of finicky, and I would apologize for that, except it's not our fault. All right, so we got to start talking about this, right? Because all the Biden Stan accounts, all the we should have had her accounts, were making the rounds yesterday afternoon, talking about how the job reports all the way through March of 2024 were downgraded by almost 1 million jobs, and somehow this is all Trump's fault. Who was in office until January of this year again? So you're saying for the first couple of months, when he's barely able to do anything, that the January, the February, and the March reports are somehow his fault? You guys blamed George W. Bush for 7 out of the 8 years that Obama was elected. Every time anything went sideways, it was Bush's fault. And every time when the economy started turning around, when we've gone from a Democratic to a Republican administration, well, it takes up to 2 years for the changes that a new president makes to kick in. So what this is really the Democrats should be getting credit for all these new jobs and everything. But yeah, the guy who was in office for 2 months when BLS said, "Oh yeah, by the way, for most of 2024 and in the very beginning of 2025, we actually had nearly 1 million less jobs than we reported to you." Somehow that's Trump's fault. But so not only do we have that happening yesterday, which I found absolutely number one, gonna say it, pretty fucking retarded. I know it's early, but I don't care. Also, you've got the other, the media arm of the "we should have had her" party, who has been basically cheering on and calling for not even a recession, but more of a depression from the moment that man put his hand on the Bible for his second term. The problem is, every time they think they're going to get us there, because, and don't get me wrong, it worked for a while because the media was able to convince people to stop shopping because, oh, you're not gonna be able to afford as much, so you might as well start saving your money now. Look, I will admit some things are still about the price point that they were when Biden took office, but again, we're not even a year into his first term yet. And I am one of those people that does firmly believe that normally it takes about a year to 18 months for the economy to start changing course. I think the reason it's happening a little bit faster this time is because instead of just taking one thing at a time, they hit the ground running on multiple points. And now we're seeing lower gas prices than we've seen in a while. I'm still seeing in my area all through summer, the E10 gas prices were below $3 a gallon for the entirety of summer in most cases. Now, there are some areas where it's more expensive because if you live out in the middle of nowhere, like I do, it costs more money to get the gas there. So it costs more for them to get the gas. So it costs more for you to be able to get the gas instead of having to drive 15 miles to go get cheaper gas. So that's, but still, we just saw a report at the for Labor Day that we had the lowest gas prices in 4 years for Labor Day travel. but, the economy's doing terribly. But so there's a new statistic that just came out. Wholesale inflation in August has smashed economists. I almost said economists, but that's kind of like Canadians versus Canada and Canada. If you're going to call them Canadians, it seems like the name of the country should be Canadian. It should either be Canada and call them Canadians, or Canada and call them Canadians, because we don't call Americans we don't call America. It's America and Americans, not America and Americanes. Just saying. I know I'm being nitpicky tonight today, but that's okay. So President Trump is actually celebrating a newest metric to come out, because wholesale inflation declining in August was something economists didn't expect to have happen. The Bureau of Labor and Statistics reported the producer price index fell 0.1 points or 0.1 percentage point last month. Economists expected a 0.3% rise. So for those of you doing the math, that's a 4-point swing in the wrong direction, according to economists, or 0.4 of a point swing. So here's the direct quote. The Labor Department reported Wednesday that its producer price index, which captures inflation in the supply chain, the one they keep saying, oh my God, it's going to get so terrible because of tariffs, before it hits consumers, showed that wholesale inflation decelerated in August after advancing 0.7% in July. Wholesale service prices fell 0.2% from July on smaller profit margins at retailers and wholesalers, which might be a sign that those companies are absorbing the cost of President Trump's sweeping tariffs, which is kind of what we told you they were going to do. So this does, in fact, also exclude volatile food and energy prices, because those do fluctuate a lot. So so-called core producer prices also fell another 0.1% from July and were up 2.8% from a year earlier. The numbers were lower than economists had forecast, because they keep trying to tell you that we're all going to die and the sky is falling. Oh, sorry. Back to the quote. Wholesale prices can offer an early look at where consumer inflation might be headed. Economists also watch it because some of its components, notably measures of healthcare and financial services, flow into the Federal Reserve's preferred inflation gauge, the Personal Consumption Expenditure, or PCE price index. The drop in producer prices makes it even more likely that the Fed will cut its benchmark interest rate next week for the first time this year. And just so you know that I'm not talking out my rear end, I've already cussed a little bit today, so I'll self-edit for a minute. Here's them talking about it.
PPI, wholesale inflation.
See, the whole reason I do the extra bumper is so I can remember to raise this slider back up. And I didn't do it, so hang on.
PPI, wholesale inflation for August, expected to be up 0.3. No. Down 0.1%. Down 0.1. Wow, that would be the first negative number since April of this year, when it was minus 0.2. If you strip out food and energy, we were also expecting up 0.3. It's minus 0.1 as well. Minus 0.1, the same. Last time we had a minus number was April, and we're comping to minus 0.2 in April. And I do want to point out, last month we had up 0.9 on both those variables. They were the highest going back to March of 22. They just were revised slightly lower to 0.7, so 0.7% for each of those in the rearview mirror for July. Now let's look at ex-food, energy, and trade. Finally, as expected, up 0.3, which follows up 0.6, unrevised at this point. Up 0.3 would actually be the smallest, going back to 0 in June of this year. Now the year over year, in my opinion, these are the most important. And boy, I'm surprised. Real progress here. 2.6 on year over year headline. We are expecting 3.3 in the rearview mirror, 3.3. 2.6 will be the lowest since it was 2.4 in June, and it underscores whether it was tariff driven or not. Those little blips seem to be moving back into the sunset. Year over year ex-food energy, 2.8%. That's core 2.8, expecting 3.5. In the rearview mirror, a whopping 3.7. 2.8 would equate to the smallest since June of this year, but that was the smallest going all the way back to April of 24.
So it's kind of funny how they keep trying to tell you the sky is falling and we're all going to die. But every time they try to tell you that, the numbers tell you something else. You did? Awesome. Yeah, I wasn't even home to watch, or I would have at least tuned in. I haven't gone back to look at the replay yet. I probably will at some point today. If I get done with all my work I have to do today and actually have time to do something fun, I probably will go back and watch. But so yeah, congratulations to Canadian Spider-Man and BZ who won the game show on Manorama last night. Well done, sir. Well done. Uh, yeah, well, California, and as you noted, you seem to always spell it with a K, doesn't really count with they have 16 refineries because they're taxing oil and gas out of business there anyway. So anyway, so I just thought it was important to start there because, they keep telling you we're headed towards a recession, everything's terrible, and then of course now they're trying to uh basically throw Trump under the bus for the BLS statistics being revised downward for most of 2024. Somehow that's his fault. Anyway, so oh wow. Okay, so apparently, and I just saw this, so we're gonna go local for a minute. I don't know how I missed this, but probably because I wasn't home to watch the news last night. So apparently, my attorney general and my governor are having a bit of a back and forth. So this is from Town Hall, Matt Vespa, which means Oklahoma's made the national news again. Okay, so I'm not even going to read you the title, just so you can't find out what's going on yet. Is this as bad as the Oklahoma Attorney General Gettner Drummond reportedly walking a waffled line on transgender surgery bans? No, but he has. But once again, we have the state attorney general and Governor Kevin Stitt clashing, this time on drag shows. The state Republican leadership has touted House Bill 1217 as a crackdown on drag shows involving minors. Oklahoma Senate Majority Floor Leader Julie Daniels, a Republican, sought clarification on the language, which she deemed vague. Mr. Drummond then weighed in, offering his opinion yesterday. It carries no legal weight, but it has long been viewed as a guide towards enforcement for those hoping that this could crack down on drag shows involving minors. Apparently, it does no such thing. According to Drummond, drag is not banned. The bar for obscenity could scale the summit of Everest, and later says enforcement of House Bill 1217 is up to localities. Still, the opinion ripped the rug from what some top Oklahoma Republicans have said about the new law via the Oklahoman. Drummond's opinion also arrives as he positions himself as a frontrunner for the 2026 governor's race. Is he though? Is he really? A recent CHS and Associated poll of likely Republicans' primary voters showed him with support from more than 40% of respondents. I didn't get polled. Far ahead of the former House Speaker Charles McCall. I haven't decided who I'm voting for yet, but I don't think Gettner's going to get it. So far ahead of former House Speaker Charles McCall, Stitt's speculated preferred successor in Oklahoma, where the GOP dominates statewide politics. The Republican primary is often the deciding contest. Daniels formally asked Drummond to weigh in after concerns surfaced over how broadly the law could be interpreted. Although the bill never explicitly mentioned drag, Stitt and other lawmakers promoted it as a crackdown on public drag events, particularly those involving minors. Daniels, however, told the Examiner Enterprise the law's vague language created confusion. The law we passed is confusing. Some people think we have banned drag performances in public places in front of children because drag performances are obscene material. Daniel said, some people think we did not do that because the obscene material statute lays out exactly what has to be part of any performance by anybody to be considered obscene. So I quote, I appreciate the Attorney General issuing the opinion and to clarify, it provides to clarify and as well as the clarity that it provided. Daniels told the EE after receiving the opinion, her district and specifically the city of Bartlesville has become a flashpoint in Oklahoma's drag culture wars. In recent years, drag events in Bartlesville have drawn protests, petitions, and national media attention. After a 2022 Pride event featured a drag performance at Unity Square, conservative activists urged the city council to ban what they called adult-oriented entertainment in public spaces. So this is not the first time that the governor that I interviewed once upon a time on KOKC 1520 AM out here in Oklahoma City, and the attorney general have gone to guns with one another. And it probably won't be the last. Just saying. So again, this marks another instance of conflict between the state attorney general and the governor's office. Drummond signed a non-enforcement deal with the ACLU over a ban on transgender surgeries in 2023, which, to put it mildly, also ticked off Governor Stitt. Yeah, and this is so for anybody who may be listening in Oklahoma, either live or later, this is the guy who thinks he should be our next governor. I don't think he's got what it takes. Yeah, right. Peasy, he's typing the puking emoji in the chat with the quote unquote drag culture. Now, look, I will admit, again, from actually 1997 to 2009, both as first, well, actually, I guess I started in 96 as one of the junior officers in the area. For the security company that I was working for. And then in 97, that one started floundering. 98, I started my own. So I went from starting in the gay district of Oklahoma City as a junior security officer to becoming the post commander and eventually the guy running the company for pretty much for a time, almost the entire gay district of Oklahoma City. So I am not unfamiliar with drag. I'm not unfamiliar with any of it. None of it bothers me until you start interjecting children into the mix. Because I worked pride parades, which another thing so sidebar, didn't expect this to come up, but sidebar. One of the things that irritated the crap out of me from being in charge of that entire district for so long, and this was before it became Pride Month. They used to do a Pride Week, and it started the Sunday before Father's Day and ran all the way through Father's Day. So for over a decade, I was working in the gay community on every Father's Day. So when I did, yeah, as a straight married man, that was annoying. That was annoying. And I saw things, and there were parents bringing their kids to these things, and I'm like, you guys are lucky that I don't have the right kind of badge anymore, because I'd have been running everybody off. But then again, I really couldn't because they permitted the streets, they did everything right, so it was technically private property from basically for the entire day. So yeah, that was fun too, because a lot of times, especially for Pride Week, most of the cops didn't want to come out there. So that's one of the ironies of working that area because I kind of became de facto law enforcement. At one point, we were actually even petitioning the owners of the clubs to file for city status so we could declare ourselves a police department because we did all the work there anyway for the longest time. Anyway, so yeah, drag culture. Ugh, sorry, I forget sometimes I'm on camera now. Right? Oh, so happy story moment. So our local drag venue, the important kind, the racing one, actually shut down for about a month and a half over the summer, and everybody thought it was going away. Apparently, it's been bought again and officially reopened like 2 weeks ago. So I was kind of sad because I never managed to get my kids or well, some of my grandkids have been because my oldest son takes them all the time, but I keep wanting to take them and I work too much. So I was really sad when it closed. And I was like, you mean I'm never gonna get to take him down there? And yeah, Thunder Valley's open again. Yay. All right, so sidebar's closed. Let's get ready to take the break. I don't know what I want to play yet, so I need to look. And computer's being cranky. You know what? We're just gonna go with that one. That's actually a pretty good song. Yeah, that'll work too. All right, hang on. All right, we're gonna take the commercial. Well, technically, it's supposed to be a commercial break, but for those of you watching live, it'll be a music break. Another reason you should tune in live. Less commercials. Well, at least live on the video feeds, anyway. live audio feeds coming soon. Eventually on iHeartRadio. Still working on getting that done. But that takes a small fortune these days, so I'm still trying to figure all that out. We'll be right back. Stay tuned.
Take me down to the riverbed. Take me down to the fighting end. Wash the poison from off my skin. Show me how to be whole again. Fly me up on a silver wing, past the black where the sirens sing. Warm me up in a nova's glow. Drop me down to the dream below. 'Cause I'm only a crack in this castle of glass. Hardly anything there for you to see. For you to see. Show me how to be whole again. 'Cause I'm only a crack in this castle of glass. Hardly anything there for you to see. For you to see. Castle of glass, hardly anything else I need to be. 'Cause I'm only a crack in this castle of glass, hardly anything there for you to see.
And welcome back into the program, ladies and gentlemen. And Andrew, I saw that. I don't know when you typed it, but I did see it somewhere. I would notice if you left my chat. Rude. Rude. Anyway, so we're back. We're live. We got a makeup class to do. I'm working on getting that squared away because we didn't do buffonology last week. I'm pretty sure the polls are closed by now, but if not, you can have a chance to vote here in a second. But I still feel bad because I didn't do the show Friday, so I wasn't able to do buffonology 101 this past week. So we're going to do it now. As soon as I get things squared away in a second. Sorry, in a second. Can't talk to Gator. My entire job is talking today. I can't seem to pull that off. I know. Some people are like, you don't pull that off any day. Any day. Shut it. Shut it. No. By the way, If you're not watching, check out our stream chat. I think Signal or better, you can actually set it to where people inside your conversations can't do screen captures. So that whole thing that happened with the recorder never would have been able to happen. If anybody's listening from the White House, check out screen chat. Oh, come on. You gotta try to overshoot your mark. You made it. All right. So, as promised, Buffonology 101 class is now in session. Pens and papers, kids. It'll be a quiz. Hot shots. Or we Did I mention I'm my own producer? So I'll be yelling at myself while we're watching this.
Who's the champ of foolish fame? Let's crown the buffoon of the week by name. Comic crown and a goofy streak. The title goes to our champ this week.
Ladies, gentlemen, and everybody else in between, class is back in session. Welcome to the fall session of Buffonology 101. Gene Baradelli and Ross Galloway back here with you. How you doing, man?
I'm good. It's been a while. I even lost track of where we were last time we competed.
Don't you worry. I know exactly where we are.
I figured you would. That's why I was boycotting.
Oh, boycotting. Oh my good. Why? Okay, I know this is going to be bad before I even ask it. Why are you boycotting?
Listen, if the Democrats can run away from Texas to avoid a defeat, I can do it here.
Well, we had nobody trying to charge you in any violation of law for doing that, thankfully. It was otherwise known as a late summer break. So, didn't realize you were boycotting, but it's good to know now. But you know what? I can understand why you'd want to boycott. If I was on a 2-match losing streak, I'd boycott too. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, everybody else in between. Your boy won again. James Comey is the first 2-time buffoon of the week since we've been doing this. He got almost 62% of the vote compared to Jessica, what's her name? That I don't even remember why Ross picked her, but was for some reason, whatever. Because it was the end of summer, it was kind of light voting. We got around 70 votes here. And yeah.
So, Gene, you mentioned James Comey is our first 2-time loser. You forgot to mention winner, whatever. He's a loser. You forgot to mention who picked him first and won with him.
Oh, it was mentioned all throughout last week's video.
I think we should get on the record again. I don't want people to think you picked him twice and won. You basically picked one of my winners and got a fraudulent win out of it. All right, good. Congratulations. Who did you pick last week? Let me pick that person. Hold on.
What exactly is a fraudulent win? How is it fraudulent?
I'm picking James Comey tonight for that.
Wow.
No,
okay,
I'm
cool.
not.
Listen,
I'm not going to play your way.
You just said it. You're picking him. I'm holding you to it now. Okay, fine. I'll let you go. Whatever. How come all of my wins are fraudulent wins and all of your wins are righteous wins? Where do you get off?
Gene, you count the votes in the middle of the night with no transparency. I don't get to see. I don't get to touch.
I'm sorry. Okay, first of all, there's a reason why you don't get to touch anymore. And that's been discussed in many a court of law. Second of all, you don't get to see. People vote publicly right here on YouTube at buffoonoftheweek.com, which, by the way, is going to be going through a little maintenance recently, so we might not do it on there this week. We vote on X. We vote on Getter. You have access to all these things that you can just check out.
Yeah, but I heard you're counting votes from like your dinner table with your family. They just say it out loud verbally, and you're jotting them down on a tally sheet.
Absolutely not. They vote online just like everybody else. It's equality here, folks. You gotta love it. Everybody has the equal opportunity to stuff the ballot box here at Buffonology 101. And speaking of how we do business here, maybe Mr. Galloway needs a reminder on how we do things here in this wacky little game show / social experiment / whatever you want to call it that we lovingly refer to as Buffonology 101. Before the show, Ross and I have each selected our nominee to present to you for Buffoon of the Week. Each host will have 5 minutes to make their case to you as to why their nominee should earn your vote. The first 2 minutes will be uninterrupted by the other host, but after that, it's a free-for-all between the two discussing the nomination. The opposing host will then evaluate the nominee based on the criteria set forth in my award-winning best-selling book, Schnooks, Crooks, Lies, and Scoundrels, a field guide to identifying political buffoons, available right now on Amazon, at Barnes & Noble, and other online bookstores.
This guy is a grifter!
The nominee will then be given a score for buffoonish nature and buffoonish action magnitude on our Sharpton Buffoonery Matrix, but more on that later. After that, we do it all over again for the other nominee. After all the nominees have been weighed and measured, each host will then have 1 minute to plead and beg for your vote for Buffoon of the Week. You'll get to vote online in the comments and on social media and at buffoonoftheweek.com. Vote early and vote often. No one's going to be counting whether you voted more than once. And now, back to the action. And just one other rule that we need to talk about that we sort of instituted mid-game here. It's that whoever won the previous week chooses who goes first this week. And that would be me. Again. Hey, remember when you said like you were going to win 2 weeks in a row? And then I won those 2 weeks in a row? Those are some good times. That's some good stuff,
Those
right?
are great.
And both those times you went first.
Start picking your own nominees, and we'll see how it goes. But okay, I'm following.
Well, I'll tell you what. I'm looking for ideas for another nominee. Maybe you should go first. Again, it seems to work out very well for me when you go first.
Let's go. All right, Gene. I got you this week, man. My pick is the woman that Donald Trump once lovingly referred to as a fat pig and slob, Rosie O'Donnell. Play the first video, please.
So about the Minnesota shooting, and it brought me right back to Columbine in 1999 when I just could not get it through my head that students in America were shooting each other in schools. And this was a church inside a Catholic school. And what do you know, was a white guy, Republican, MAGA person. What do you know? White supremacist.
I'm pretty sure everybody knows what she's referring to. She's referring to that shooting at the church in Minnesota. And she mentions, I can't believe it happened again. Students shooting each other, right? Kids of Democrats shoot each other every day in places like Chicago and Detroit. And I never hear a peep out of old Rosie O'Donnell. She wanted it to be a white guy. She wanted it to be a Republican, a MAGA person, a white supremacist. She got some nerve. Yeah, Rosie, what do you know? What do you know? Fucking nothing. You're a clown, right? The left is the party of anarchy and violence, hands down. They desperately want to blame Republicans and red states and white men. They never say a peep when it's white on black violence or black on black violence, right? Never. I never hear people like Rosie O'Donnell say a peep in those scenarios. Well, the last few active shooters happen to be in Fat Rosie's community. And that community is the LGBTQ fucking maniacs on meds, hormones, and other drugs community. Rosie tried to be the bigger man, though. She did offer this apology.
Hi, everybody. It's Rosie O'Donnell, star of the Flintstones. Listen, I have a cold sore. I know. Happens. Get run down, Anyway, I know a lot of you were very upset about the video I made before I went away for a few days. I didn't go online and haven't seen them till today. But you are right. I did not do my due diligence before I made that emotional statement. And I said things about the shooter that were incorrect. I assumed, like most shooters, they followed a standard MO and had standard, feelings of NRA loving kind of gun people. Anyway, the truth is, I messed up, and when you mess up, you fess up. I'm sorry. This is my apology video, and I hope it's enough.
How perfect is it that she had to make that apology video with a massive cold sore herpes simplex on her lip? That was terrific, right? You didn't do your due diligence before that emotional statement? No, that was an hysterical, psychotic statement. She actually doubled down and then said that most shooters are NRA gun lovers, right? You messed up, you apologize, you hope that's enough. No, that's not enough. You need to pay. The NRA should sue her. The GOP should sue her. You need to bankrupt this evil cunt, just like they did to Alex Jones and Rudy Giuliani, right? That's defamation if I ever heard it, against two pretty large organizations. What say you, counselor?
First of all, I just got to say, wow. My God, the ignorance and the audacity that mixes together that ends up in a massive blob that is Rosie O'Donnell. Unreal. I can't believe what she was saying. The news about who the shooter was, the identity, the name change, it was all out the same day. I'm trying to understand how could she be this ignorant and think that there's actually a profile for mass shooters when the Nashville shooter, the Uvalde shooter, so many other shooters fit this narrative, and to the point where the Trump administration is considering a gun ban for trans people. That's how much of a trend this is now. So you went with the stereotypical, bad white man, and then you expect the apology to cover it all up. I will give some credit for the apology, but it's more out of self-survival than it is anything else. Just ridiculous. This is the best example of ready, shoot, aim, forgive the pun, that I've seen in a good long while.
100%. And yeah, she obviously is ignorant, right? But she is the same type of leftist that will tell you that they should tell you about how you should get your health care, right? And which vaccines you should take. And these people think they can change the fucking climate, right? That's how absurd these people really are. And then when you see them, they make an absurd statement. Like you said, the news broke the same day that this happened of who this person was, right? But these people are going to tell us that they can change the fucking climate? Bro, she's...
In fact, we covered it last week, how Jacob Frey, the mayor of Minneapolis, was trying to run cover in advance because of the identity of this shooter. So how could Rosie miss that?
The videos that came out online before the news even certified them as real showed BLM and Kill Trump and a bunch of other BS written on his rifle and ammunition, right? The guy clearly was not a MAGA Republican. And even if he was, this doesn't make sense. Like, they always try to target us and paint us with that broad brush. But most of the time, it's actually them.
Absolutely. Well, looks like your time is up now, pal. So it's a very good nominee, I must say. It's better than old what's-her-name from last week. At least you pick somebody that people know, which is kind of important for our little game here. I found that out recently. So now that you've put forth this nominee and the reasons why, it is my job to place Rosie O'Donnell within our Sharpton buffoonery matrix. That's our visual representation of political buffoonery. And if you want to know more about the Sharpton buffoonery matrix, you got to learn about two very important things. We call them the buns and the bams. Let's talk buns.
My buns!
No, not those. And definitely not those. I'm talking about our personal buffoonish nature. A decade of collective observations has shown that everyone, to some degree, has a bun. You, me, everybody. The size of their buns is directly related to a buffoon's propensity to do stupid things.
Look at the size of that thing.
And then there's bam, 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 buffoonish action magnitude. That's our measurement of how big a whoopsie a buffoon made. The bigger the mistake, the greater the magnitude. We then plug these values into our Sharpton buffoonery matrix, named for the alpha and omega of buffoonery, the Reverend Al Sharpton.
Modern problems require modern solutions,
which is our visual representation of a buffoon's bum to bam ratio. And here's the best part. After we tally up the worst offenders, you decide. You get to cast your vote, share your thoughts, and you determine who earns the dubious distinction of Buffoon of the Week, which will record as the weeks go by. So I gotta say, pal, the buns and the bams are gonna be in your favor with this one.
Mm.
You know, it's Rosie O'Donnell. I mean, she's got some pretty gigantic buns, and the magnitude of this action is going to be up there. So, as the video says, let's talk buns. Buffoonish nature for Rosie O'Donnell. Wait, you want to say something?
Yeah, so I know where to find this, but I think you should actually tell our audience where can they actually learn a little bit more about buns and bams. We use these terms like everyone knows what the hell we're talking about. I know the video just explained it, but where can they actually get a little more detail?
I am so glad you asked, pal. It's very simple. They can all go to my award-winning Amazon best-selling book, Schnooks, Crooks, Liars, and Scoundrels, A Field Guide to Identifying Political Buffoons. That's available right now on Amazon, at Barnes & Noble, and other online bookstores.
This guy is a grifter.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to grift there.
Listen, man, I'm very proud of you for writing that book.
Well, and you'll find out in the acknowledgments how a certain Mr. Galloway is one of the forefathers of buffoonology and what that actually means as well. So I was getting around to saying that Rosie O'Donnell has a pretty long history of having a buffoonish nature. She's an alumnus of The View. We all know how those stints went. She always seemed to raise a controversy there. So much to the point that she raised the ire of one Donald Trump during his first presidential campaign, to the point where Donald Trump has driven her out of the country, and she's now a resident of Ireland. And let me just say to our Irish friends out there, we're sorry, but we're not sorry. We're really not sorry. Thank you very much for taking that in. It was either there or Uganda. So that being said, given her long history, and she's continuing this diarrhea of the brain, diarrhea of thought, just garbage in, garbage out, her bun is going to be high. I am going to give her a 74 for her bun scale. She's been around for decades. It's staying power. And she's been making the same ill assumptions and spreading that bile wherever she's been when it comes to political circles. So 74 on the bun. And let's just get this out of the way as well. This is definitely Sharpton-esque. Speaking before thinking, making a huge mistake publicly, yeah, that fits the bill. So in honor of the blessed saint himself, St. Patrick, I'm going to give Rosie O'Donnell 17 giga-Sharptons for buffoonish action magnitude. These videos have been seen far and wide. Everyone has made fun of her. Everyone knows what a buffoon she is. And by opening her mouth again without thinking, she reinforced and confirmed what we all already knew. But it's good to have that reminder that she doesn't think, she doesn't do due diligence, she relies on her own stereotypical thoughts, and that she remains the same buffoon, unchanging as the seasons. She's still there, always the same buffoon.
Well said, Gene. I don't rely on luck in life, but I'll take the luck of the Irish this week, hopefully. And by the way, Ireland, no backsies. It's a one-way trip. You're keeping her.
What do the dealers do when they leave the table and they never come back? They go, one of these things, right? You can have her. Before we get to my nominee this week for Buffoon of the Week, I want to let you guys know that this episode of Buffoonology 101 is sponsored by Freedom Chat. It's a next-generation messaging app that keeps your conversations actually private. Whenever I would communicate with Ross when we were working on political stuff, we had group chats in the past, and frankly, I didn't like any of them because I always knew that somebody was always watching, whether it would be just a regular SMS message or one of those other group chat apps that were out there. We always knew that Big Brother was watching, our information wasn't exactly secure, and that it could be sold to the highest bidder at any time. With Freedom Chat, we don't have those worries, pal.
No, we definitely don't. And what I did want to tell people, it's growing exponentially. Every day, I get several alerts to my phone of new subscribers, people liking the content. My recommendation to people is get in on the ground level and get in on the fun. I'm having a blast on there.
And what Ross is talking about is our Buffoon of the Week channel on Freedom Chat, where we post behind-the-scenes content. We let people know in advance when our videos are going to be uploaded to our various social media platforms. And every now and then we'll have just exclusive content that goes up discussing either a preview of what we're doing or something else going on in our lives. But yeah, we're getting new subscribers on that pretty much daily. We're one of the top channels right now on Freedom Chat, and it's just going to grow from there. Freedom Chat does not track you, does not track your data, does not keep any of your information on any server. Freedom Chat features end-to-end encryption that includes no storage of messages on any server and no commercial use of data whatsoever. Your information is yours to the point where you can post and then detonate it. You can just get rid of it, delete it from all sides of conversations. I know that Ross and I kind of love that we have that feature. And you can have a lot of fun with that too, with group chats and put things in there and maybe gaslight a few people. It's a little fun, but it's also a very important tool for other people. But you know us, we love having a caper or two. So check it out, Freedom Chat. It's available for Android and iPhone. You can download it wherever you get your apps for your device, or head over to freedomchat.com and download it there. So for my nominee, we're going to play a game of Where Are They Now? Buffoon Edition. Because we've seen a lot of buffoons come and go here on our channel the past couple of years. But we hardly ever get to check in on some old favorites. And one of those old favorites is this week's nominee, the man who used to be Don Lemon. Don Lemon, you may remember, had a primetime gig on CNN. He had his own show for many years, was basically giving carte blanche to talk about whatever he wanted to talk about, whether it be disappearing crashed airplanes in Southeast Asia or anything else he wanted to talk about with his buddy Chris Cuomo. And wouldn't you know it, both Chris Cuomo and Don Lemon are no longer at CNN, yet Donald Trump remains. Interesting how that happens, but I digress. Don Lemon is one of those has-been journalists that tried to make it on their own, first on X, and then within one interview, Elon just detonated that endeavor. And now he's on YouTube trying to remain relevant, being the man on the scene and an investigative reporter. He was seen recently with a bunch of freaky-loos and wackadoos invading Marjorie Taylor Greene's office, a group of people who want to impeach Donald Trump. Take a look at this nonsense.
After you. Come on, after you. After you.
We're here with the folks to see the Congresswoman.
Yeah. She's not available right now. I'm so sorry about that.
Is she in?
You guys can contact their office at a different time if you guys would like a meeting with the Congresswoman.
Well, can we leave word for her?
Sure, you guys can pass along the comment.
Yeah, we would like to make sure that she knows that we need to get Donald Trump impeached and out of office. My name is Carlos Alvarez Arantes. I'm the founder of American Opposition. I'm sure you've seen the protests on the streets and the Tesla boycott and all of that. We were one of the organizations that started that. This is Jessica Benson with the removal commission.
Office.
Okay.
So I'm gonna have to ask you to stop recording. This is a private office.
Yes, and we're here to see the congresswoman.
You're not residents of our district, and you haven't requested.
Yes, well, we're here requesting a meeting.
Well, again, your group is still recording, and if you continue to record,
Well,
we're gonna have to contact the Capitol Police.
Okay.
No problem.
Do you know when we can get her or be in touch with you guys?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I mean, we're here. We have a legitimate concern.
Where are you from?
I'm the founder of American Opposition. I'm sure you've seen the notes from the rally.
I'm sure.
Yeah, the protests on the streets.
Yeah.
So
I'm
we're
a former
not.
Trump supporter and staff member of Mrs. Meg.
She's the woman that got the non-disclosure agreements with Donald Trump's
Flying on the plane with Donald Trump.
And this is Don Lemon. And we're here visiting, and we'd like to let her know that we are.
Okay, there are ways that you can request an interview with the congresswoman and bombarding our office and
Oh no, we're not bombarding. This
We're
is
not
the
bombarding.
people's house, and
We're
we're
very
very
civil people
peacefully
here.
coming here to talk to you.
Yeah,
we're American citizens. We can
You can reach out to our communications.
And what's your name?
Can I get one, please?
What's your name?
I don't.
You don't.
Yeah, you work for us.
We work for the people of Northwest.
You work for the American people, and your salary comes from our tax dollars.
They say that you can learn a lot about someone based upon the company they keep. Lord knows I've had to fight with my own accusations from hanging out with Galloway. But that being said, look at who Don Lemon is traipsing around the Capitol with. Carlos Alvarez, who claims to be the head of a group called American Opposition that was involved with all of the Tesla protests that no one cared about and was really annoying during the early part of the year. But let's also take a look at some of the other characters that Don Lemon has chosen to associate with in this particular endeavor.
This is treason. Real blood and a real gunshot wound. Do you believe that this man's ear could have healed that quickly without any scar? No.
I think it was ketchup.
It wasn't blood, I'll tell you that much.
I don't know. I know I do. There are people have theories that it was staged.
Why do you think professionals come out and scrutinize that? Why would the doctors be able to?
Remember when people used to talk about QAnon? Meet Blueanon. And Don Lemon is right in the heart of it with a nice sized group of people. Dare you say that they're invading the Capitol in mass like that? Look, if you want to go meet with a member of Congress, there are ways of doing it. You go through the channels of talking to the press secretary for the office or whatever. Going like this, not the way to do it. And Don Lemon choosing to associate this way, oh, how the high and mighty hack has fallen, perpetuating conspiracy theories about the attempted assassination of a president? Really? Buffoonery, complete and total buffoonery. Don Lemon could have happened to a worse person.
Yeah, man. I mean, he doesn't know if Trump was actually shot. He said there are theories out there. Really, Don? You were on the most trusted news network or whatever they used to say about, CNN. Yeah, this looks a lot like insurrection, right? That's the definition of it, I guess. They asked him to leave. They didn't want to leave. They delayed leaving. And I would charge him an insurrection. More importantly, Gene, who was the black guy with the leather cowboy hat in that video? That's who I wanted to hear from, not Don Lemon.
It takes different strokes to move the world, man. There's a lot of people out there. But for me, it's the descent of Don Lemon.
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
We thought he was bad when he had a national spotlight. He is now in the morass. He is down in the depths, in the dregs of, like I called him, Blueanon. He's a man in search of audience capture. Nobody wants to associate with Don Lemon that's reputable. So he's got to go around with activists who put on protests outside of Tesla facilities and who invade Marjorie Taylor Greene's office of all places And he's like, oh, yeah, can I get her press contact as well? You freaking buffoon. You used to have the keys to the kingdom, and you fucked it up. Good for you now. This is what you deserve.
What was
I'm all about kicking a man when he's down, pal.
But what was the point of all that, to be honest? Like, what were they there to ask Marjorie Taylor Greene? Like, she's not a leader of our party. What were they there to ask her?
To vote to impeach Donald Trump. That's the fool's errand that Don Lemon is covering right now, because he's not going to cover anything else of any note. His word, his credibility is shot. He's a cocky-duty, boopy head buffoon, and that's all I have to say about that.
I think it's kind of funny, Gene, that both of us picked losers that are both like clinging to their past relevance. Neither one of these people have anything to say that anybody really cares about now. And that's actually going to hurt their scores a little bit. But well played.
That is such a good point, though. They are two buffoons that used to be somebody, and now they're not.
And now they're not.
It certainly says something about the left, how their burn rate through people is kind of crazy.
Yeah, I will say this, though, and this is probably both of them. In the age of the internet, even though you are a has-been, or like in our case, never was, just because you were a has-been doesn't mean you need to get off the stage. Both of these people could live good lives and not be on our show, right? But they've inserted themselves into the public discourse and warranted a nomination here.
You know what it is, pal? And I don't want to take up too much of your time for the scoring, but it's like the U.S. Open. Not everyone gets to play on center court. That's why there's court 10 and court 12 and the outer reaches of other people playing.
Yeah, well said. I mean, so this guy, Don Lemon, the buffoonish nature. I'm jaded because I hearken back to the bad old days of COVID when he was on CNN, and him and Chris Cuomo would do their little banter as they handed off one show to another.
God.
And Don Lemon would say the most racist things against white people and the most absurd comments about people who wanted more information about the vaccine before they got it. Like, this guy is a real loser. So buffoonish nature, he's up there in the healthy part of the pack. I'm giving him a 75 because, even though he's not on a network anymore, who cares? He's inserting himself in, and he's saying dumb things and doing dumb things and associating with dumb people still. So 75 it is for buffoonish nature.
I appreciate that. Can't wait to hear about the BAM.
So the BAM, you might be a little disappointed here. I will say this, and I might be stealing this from a conversation we had earlier. He's basically the ringmaster of a traveling circus in that video. Yeah, it's funny. It's entertaining to watch. Is it really impactful? No. Is it really that important? No. He went to MTG's office, another person who's basically irrelevant on our side. I don't know why people think she's the leader of our party. Like, she's barely ever on TV, and none of us think she's the leader of our party. But we'll put that aside. It is Sharpton-esque because I think that Don Lemon exemplifies Al Sharpton and his MO, if you will. So I'm gonna give him 6 Giga Sharpton. That puts him healthy in the healthy area of where Karine Jean-Pierre was on one of her dumb things and a few other people. He's not as bad as Jake Tapper. I can't put him above that as far as what Jake Tapper did with his book. But 6 Giga Sharptons, I think that's fair.
I think that's fair as well. This is the political buffoonery equivalent of bubblegum. It's a flavor for a moment, but then it gets all hard and rubbery and gets thrown away very quickly. So we've seen a lot of that. You know what? Note to self: political buffoonery bubblegum for the store. Let me just write that down real quick. But yeah, I think that's the right score right there. And maybe we can get Fruit Stripe to sponsor some gum, because isn't that the one that goes really, really quickly with flavor and then gets thrown out real quick?
That's it. And it just tastes like a piece of plastic in your mouth.
And that's a fitting way to end our discussion of Don Lemon. Tastes like a piece of plastic in your mouth. All right, gang, we have delivered to you our nominees. And right now, it's time for us to make our final pleas to you as to why you should vote for either my nominee, right here, guys, or the other guys, if that's what you really want to do, or whatever. So, Mr. Galloway, you get to go first whenever you are ready.
And go. All right, Gene. I'm going to do something that I've never done on this show. I was wrong. I was wrong about Rosie. And I made some emotional statements. I messed up. I didn't do my due diligence. I assumed she was just following her usual MO of being a fat, ignorant hater and loser. She was, right? Rosie is all those things and more. Definitely earned your vote for Buffoon of the Week. Bonus content, Rosie O'Donnell, I hope you sleep well at night knowing that you are probably the reason that Donald Trump won in 2016. That debate moment was his breakout moment in 2016 where he clearly got ahead of the pack. And I just want to point one other thing out, Gene. I know my time is running low here. Gene's MO, speaking of MOs, he picked a gay black man who was fired from his job. Great job, Gene. Way to fill the stereotype.
I knew he was going to go there. It was just a matter of time.
Okay, your turn.
You know, all joking aside from Mr. Galloway, picking on an expat like Rosie O'Donnell, kicking her while she's down, disgusting behavior. If you're going to kick someone while they're down, let it be a black gay man like Don Lemon. Don Lemon has had a much bigger fall from grace than Rosie O'Donnell has had. He was once one of the kings of media over at CNN, a leftist darling. And look at him now, as Galloway said, the head of his own three-ring circus of buffoons. You wouldn't have believed it if you hadn't seen it, folks. Don Lemon is down, out, and deserving of your vote this week for Buffoon of the Week. And I'm not even going to use up all my time other than to say, fuck you, Galloway. I'm not a racist. Son of a bitch.
Oh, that was great that you said it too. It's so perfect.
It's not perfect because I'm not that guy.
Don't pick Gallows, lesbian white woman. Pick my gay black man.
You're the worst. How dare you pick it? How dare you use my words against me?
Oh.
Well, folks, listen. All joking aside, the polls are now open. You're going to be able to vote this week on YouTube. You're going to be able to vote on X. You're going to be able to vote on Getter, in the comments on any social media platform where you see this video. Tell us who you got for Buffoon of the Week. You know, I'm so glad that I've built up my reputation as a credible attorney just so you can come on here every week to just slander me down to the ground.
You know what we need to do, Gene, on all of these shows? You need to run a disclaimer on the bottom. The views of Ross Galloway do not necessarily represent.
The views of Ross Galloway do not necessarily represent those of KLRN Radio or KLRN Radio Management. And I know because KLRN Radio Management is me. Anyway, had to be done. So I also feel like Gene left some low-hanging fruit because when he started talking about polls, he should have worked Don Lemon back in there. Everybody knows Don Lemon likes polls. Giggity. All right, so we're going to skip the top of the hour break. I did a station ID instead because I realized when I started this, I was like, ooh, that's long, and I didn't check the clock. So anyway, no top of the hour. May or may not be a bottom of the hour music break because I still got lots of stuff that I need to get to. So hang on because I had something I wanted to talk about. I think I bookmarked it though. I always think, oh, I don't need to bookmark it, and then we'll be running like some long clip or something, and then I'll completely forget that I probably should have bookmarked it because reasons. All right, so hang on. I found it. So I'm going to let this man talk for a second because I'm probably going to scream after we're done discussing this. But So this whole stabbing in North Carolina that, is finally starting to make the news. There's an angle of this that not very many people have talked about yet, and I was going to talk about it today anyway, but it looks like I should have done it yesterday because then I would have been ahead of the curve and not behind, but here you go.
Well, I'm pissed off. I'm going to use some words that somebody might not like. If that bothers you, go someplace else. But this stupid motherfucker in North Carolina who stood up and murdered this young woman who escaped from Ukraine, formed a life here in the United States, learned our language, got a job, was self-sufficient. And he, having been arrested 14 times, spent 5 years in prison for beating the crap out of his sister, from what I believe, and keeps getting passed along. Even his mother wanted him put up and put away. But no. The cashless bail system that has permeated our legal system throughout this country allowed this stupid son of a bitch to be out there unchecked. And as a result, this young lady is no longer with us. If that ain't bad enough, somebody tried to start a GoFundMe page 2 different times to support this bastard. For some reason, I don't know why, but I'm glad they did. GoFundMe took it down. Usually they don't do that crap. They just let the shit go. But here we go with the Communist News Network trying to make this a point about MAGA, that now this is just giving Trump more ammunition to go after people and justify his, I'm getting tongue-tied, his assault on crime in the United States. Are you freaking kidding me? You sons of bitches on the Communist News Channel and the MS I Don't Give a Shit channel, you need to find a life. You need to go someplace. Go live with Rosie O'Donnell. Maybe she can help you learn how to eat yourself to oblivion. Anyway, this is one old Army Vietnam veteran vet who is totally pissed off, especially for those people who are just sitting on that car who could have went over and put a compress on her neck and applied pressure, and maybe she would still be here today. But no, they've been desensitized, and because of what happened to Daniel Penny, they figure, oh no, better not get involved. This bullshit has got me so mad. I held it back. Sorry if I offended you, but I held it back.
You shouldn't have held it back, sir. That's my take. But so this brings up a point that I was going to make yesterday, but I ran out of time. So all these videos, right? So you've got the dude videotaping himself saying, I got the white chick, or whatever the hell it was while he's covered in her blood. You've got all these other cell phone camera videos that are coming out of people that were on in the car, in the train car when this happened. Apparently, not a single one of them even bothered to call 911 or render aid. And I told you guys this shit was going to happen. After Daniel Penny, I told you they were going to get people to the point where they were afraid to do anything because they're afraid they're going to be sued. This is why Good Samaritan laws existed in the first place, was to make sure that people that were there who might not have had the necessary training to keep from being able to be sued would still at least try to help keep people alive in the event of an emergency. And now we have gotten people so beaten down and so just interested in getting clicks by any fucking means necessary that they will watch a woman die in real time just to be able to get the video. So I'm going to ask you this question, and I'm going to ask it honestly. Do we even deserve to be saved anymore? When you can watch someone die in real time and you're too busy videotaping it to try to do anything about it, do we even deserve to be saved anymore? And that is an honest question. What the hell has happened to this country? Where we are, dude, you remember The Running Man? People used to make fun of that shit. Oh, that's so dystopian. That would never happen here. It's happening in micro markets every fucking day on your cell phone. You guys are watching people get their asses kicked. You're watching people die in real time, and you're doing nothing. When did we become so broken? How in the hell can you watch, especially a woman? It's one thing when dudes are kicking the shit out of each other. We do that all the time. Hell, some of my best friends are people that I got in fights with, and then we went and had beers afterwards. Still talk to them to this day. But when you're watching a woman get stabbed to death in real fucking time and you do nothing, don't talk to me about toxic masculinity anymore. Let's start talking about toxic pussyism. Because that's what this is. We are watching the pussification of America. And you can see them starting to try to fight against it by bringing the actual reason for our military to exist back into existence again. By telling people, hey, it's okay to be a dude. Especially if you're born one. Not so much if you're not. Am I the only one who's pissed? I mean, I'm glad I'm not, because this guy that we just played was pissed. But I can't imagine just standing there watching someone die. What the hell? What has happened to us? The same people that are screaming and yelling about how we're supposed to be using our tax dollars to help people all over the world. And oh my God, you cut USAID funding so 2 people aren't going to be able to get their oxygen in Africa anymore, even though they supposedly have free health care. But you can watch a woman die on a fucking train car or subway car or whatever the hell it was. Are you kidding me right now? I don't want to. And the fucking New York Times making a point that, this over amplification of black violence was terrible, and it was used oftentimes in Jim Crow states to justify black people getting the shit kicked out of them and blah, 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 blah. Fuck you, New York Times. You are one of the... Dude, how did the gray lady become a whore? That's my question. You're named after, and your masthead has the gray lady on it, and you've become the whore of Babylon. I hate to sound like a preacher today because I'm cursing like a sailor at the same time, but as a reminder, I am one, even if I'm not very good at it, which is why I do this instead. I remember when I found out Sam Kinison used to be a Baptist minister and then went on to do comedy, I was like, I kind of get it now. I kind of get it now. Because there are some of us that just can't hold stuff like this in. When you live in a country now where you will videotape people jumping up and down on cop cars and kicking the crap out of cops and doing all these different things, and you'll just stand and watch it. I don't want to live in that world. I don't want to live in... Not only do I not want to live in that world, let's zoom it in a little bit. I don't want to live in that kind of a country. So my question is, what are we going to do to change it? What are we going to do to fix it? Because this is insanity. One of these people that were videotaping could have... Pause it for a second. Call 911 and then go back to videotaping. At least you would have tried to have done something. But I cannot believe not a single person thought to go over there and try to put some sort of compression on the wound just to see if maybe, just maybe, you could keep this poor woman alive. And the fact that the most ironic thing of all of this, in my opinion, is this. This woman's from Ukraine. Where's the leftist outrage for this Ukrainian death? You got Don Lemon. We played that clip yesterday. This man was hurting, and hurt people. Dude, I'm about to... Oh, no, I'm sorry. I said Don Lemon. It wasn't Don Lemon. It was the communist asshole. Why can I not think of his name right now? It's Van Jones. Hurt people. Yeah, and I'm about to punch you in the fucking throat. Not really. Well, maybe. I can't with these people anymore. You just watch someone die in real time. Every single man on that train should be castrated because you're not fulfilling your societal requirements. And I mean it. I'm 52 years old. I'm old, I'm broken, and gimp. And if I had been there, I would have still tried to do something. Because somebody has to. This is insane. All right, so I'm going to get caught up on the chat here for a second. So, yeah, so exactly. So BZ's got a lot to say on this one. So this is what we call the Ferguson effect and now the Penny effect, which I had alluded to a moment ago. So leftists have prosecuted themselves into the abject murders of others, which they have. No one considers what BZ calls the logical extension. Prosecute people for coming to the defense of themselves and others yields people afraid of being prosecuted and sent to prison. Completely unforeseen circumstances. No, those are intentional results. If leftists keep pushing in this fashion, the crisis looms. CWI should not be unthinkable, but considering that snaps the trap the leftists have created themselves for conservatives and lovers of America. You're right. It's also generational. Because part of it, and whether anybody wants to admit this or not, when you grow up in a school system that talks about the white devil without necessarily calling them the white devil, then you just kind of sit back and watch when bad things happen to white people because in your mind you feel like they deserve it and better you than them, especially if you're a white folk. And that's another terrifying aspect of this that nobody's talking about. Some of this is being allowed to happen by our own people because in most cases, a lot of the kids, especially that have grown up in the last 20 years or so in our education system, honestly think that we deserve it. We deserve every bad thing that happens to us, whether it's on a small scale or a large scale, because of all the bad things that have happened throughout history that apparently we had a hand in, even though none of us were alive at the time. And I've talked about this over and over and over again. Nobody wants to talk about the fact that one, slavery was a worldwide practice. It was Western civilization that started the process to try to end it. Unfortunately, it failed because all it did was go underground and change the name because now it's human trafficking. Same damn difference. Good point. Welcome into the chat, Dave. No need to castrate the men on the train. They did it to themselves. Well, maybe emotionally, but at this point, I'm angry enough at them that it should be happening physically. So, but I do see your point. So, and this is from BZ again. We had to train cops who had never been hit in anger in their entire lives, and many of the shootings and overreactions cops display for which they have been prosecuted were committed out of fear. That's extremely difficult to train out. I will admit that I did have a problem with that in the beginning. Not so much when I was in actual uniform because I wasn't in one for very long. But I remember remember like earlier in the show when I talked about being, the head of security for the gay district, that also meant the lesbian bar because there was one in the area. I will admit the first time I went in to go break up a girl on girl fight, I got pummeled for a good 5 minutes because my entire body was like, you can't hit a woman, you can't hit a woman, you can't hit a woman. And I'm like, okay, I got to do something or I'm going to die. So I wound up, subduing and then handcuffing. So yeah, BZ's right in a lot of ways. So some of the stuff that happens, not all of the time, but a lot of times is because of poor training. Because cops are in situations that they haven't been able to basically get ready for. And you do see it. It's just like every other profession, though. There are bad apples in every bunch. Sadly, because of everybody having access to a camera now, we see a lot more of the bad apples in the bunch than we used to, especially with teachers. Although, not that I meant to go down this rabbit hole real quick, but I will point out, I think another issue that we have is we seem to be turning out teachers a lot younger than we used to. Because I don't know, maybe it was because I was a kid, but I don't remember any of the teachers when I was in school looking like the teachers that these kids have today. Because I had a few fantasies that might have been pushed a little harder anyway. I'm sorry, did I say that out loud? Well, BC, it's not just the cop gene pool. I think one of the most interesting things I read, and I think it was about 5 years ago, was a study that has been put out that apparently for some reason the level of testosterone from men from generation to generation is actually lessening, and scientists can't really figure out why. I think most of it is environmental, because of the things that we're putting into our bodies, which is why they've now started all these supplements that are supposed to help you bring your testosterone levels back up to help with, things like this that you can't see because the camera angle's wrong. But I didn't used to be round. Then I started taking jobs where I had to sit down a lot, and I wasn't as active as I used to be. Now I could kick my own ass because I'm lucky if I can do 5,000 steps a day without feeling like I'm gonna die. I'm working on fixing that though. But anyway. But yeah, I had to start with that because I knew it was gonna lead to a rant, and I have my scratchy voice is back. But another side note on this stuff, because everything I see from everybody is like, well, what did you expect them to do? He only ever had one felony conviction, and he did that one. So maybe not do the cashless bail approach. At least that way, when mom comes up with the bail money, the system can say, well, we tried to keep him in, but we have rules, not the whole revolving door. Maybe also, once somebody's been convicted of 14 separate occurrences, maybe start looking into maybe alternative means of helping to take care of them, because they obviously have some sort of a problem that has gone unaddressed. But that would make too much sense. So I'm going to read this to you just because this is part of what pissed me off. Where did it go though? Oh yeah. So bear with me for a second. I got to reload it. So hang on, just to make sure I'm on the same page. The New York Times exaggerated stories about black criminality led to white supremacist uprising in North Carolina 130 years ago. So yeah, so this is what I was telling you about the Gray Lady. So we're going to read the entire thing here. So in North Carolina, as in other southern states, newspapers in the Jim Crow era often egregiously exaggerated stories about black criminality. Among other things, such stories served as a precursor to a white supremacist uprising in Wilmington, North Carolina in 1898, in which at least 60 black men were killed. You don't hate the media enough. If that's your takeaway from this, as a member of the media, you don't hate them enough. It's impossible. You don't possibly hate them enough. All right, so let's get into some of this just to make sure that we've covered it all. So, for those of you who have been keeping score, we've been trying to tell you that the entire Biden presidency was smoke and mirrors, and it didn't take long after January 20th of this year for the evidence of what we all knew was wrong during Joe Biden's sham presidency to start trickling in. That trickle soon turned into a flood of proof that it was all just as awful as we thought it was, if not worse. So Biden fatigue is real, but we still kind of got to talk about this. But the American people need to keep being reminded of just what an elaborate scam the entire Biden presidency was. However, it's staggering to ponder the totality of President Joe Biden and the lie of what his presidency was. Even for those of us who chronicled the entire thing on shows like this and articles being written, etc., it began during the primaries when Dems flying monkeys in the mainstream media created a Joseph Robinette Biden who never existed. He'd always been one of the most divisive people in American politics, a real nasty piece of work. The MSM hacks turned him into a kindly grandpa who was going to read the electorate bedtime stories after he got Orange Man bad out of the White House. So they told everyone that he was a centrist too, despite his previous 8-year stint as the vice president under the exceedingly radical Barack Obama. Biden may actually have been a moderate Democrat when he began his stint in the Lightbringers Veep, but moderate Democrats ceased to exist after 8 years of that. Once they made all that up, it was easy to keep faking it, just like the hooker. Sorry, had to be done. He was sharp as a tack. He was brilliant at foreign policy. The Biden economy was roaring. So, So, about that last part, this is from PJ Media from Matt. 4 years ago, Joe Biden bragged about presiding over the strongest economy in history. He propped up his narrative with the return of jobs after the COVID shutdown, which was mostly people returning to work, and falsely claimed his policies created them, because they didn't. Even liberal outlets admitted he was padding the numbers, but Biden never stopped repeating the lie. Now the lie has officially collapsed. The BLS, otherwise known as Department of Labor and Statistics, probably should change that to LBS, because at least then the acronym would make more sense. Sorry. Just confirmed what President Trump has been saying all along. Biden's strong economy was nothing but smoke and mirrors. Wasn't just Donald Trump. So on Monday, BLS issued the largest downward revision in history, wiping out nearly 1 million jobs, 911,000 to be exact. That's not a minor correction. That's proof Biden's economic record wasn't just exaggerated, but was a total fraud. I know we talked about this earlier, but I wanted to come back to this because I just want to drive this point home. 911,000 jobs were wiped out for most of 2024 into the beginning of 2025. That is almost every single gain they reported. If you'll do the math, they were typically reporting about 100,000 jobs a year or a month for a 12-month stint. They wiped almost all of them out, which means there were times when we were actually in negative job growth territory, but they lied to you about it. This is the thing. And this comes back to the same thing that I'm talking about. How long are you guys going to allow the media to lie to you, allow your politicians to lie to you, and allow people to just do nothing? When is enough enough? Because if you go back and look at the numbers now with the revisions, there were times that there was negative job growth under Biden. Nobody wants to talk about it. Not to mention the fact that while they're pumping out all these supposed great numbers, the places where they were supposedly getting these great numbers were from public sector jobs and people that were foreign born taking jobs. So even with all of that, we were still in negative job territory, at least a couple of times during that cycle, and nobody reported on it. Why are we continuing to support these people that lie to us continually? They want to talk about Fox News and how it had to settle once. And how, I guess, the owners of Fox News had to admit that majority of the time it's considered entertainment, which it is, and they tell you that. They only have a handful of actual news shows. The rest of them are entertainment, political stuff like what I do here. But I still try to bring you news and information to the best of my ability because it's my job. I mean, I don't know. I feel like we're headed towards another civil war, and BZ just made the same point in the chat, right, as this thought was occurring to me. And I don't know if we're going to survive it this time. And the question is, should we? The other night when I couldn't sleep, I finally turned on some TV just because I was like, you know what, I got to do something. I can't sleep anyway. So I found, and I will admit, I don't normally make recommendations. This was actually pretty good. So there is a Japanese anime series out on Netflix about the whole, Terminator saga. And it's actually pretty good. It's a completely different tree, so it was kind of nice because it didn't have anything to do with John Connor or anything else. And this one actually takes place in Japan. And I think it only had like 8 or 9 episodes. So because I couldn't sleep, I got to watch pretty much the whole thing. And it was honestly really good, but it's just one of those things that makes you think, do we deserve to survive? What about us makes us deserve to survive? Because when you're telling me that we're not nice enough to foreigners, but you watch people that are foreign born that have come to the country and apparently done it the right way from everything that I can find, get murdered on a train and do nothing, who's the real monster here? All we're trying to do is get people out of the country that are doing bad things. And I don't want to hear it. Most of the people that come into this country illegally haven't done anything wrong. Rethink that sentence. Play it a little slower in your head. And I'm going to say this again. If you sleep with your windows unlocked and your doors open and your keys in your car and you just let anybody come in whenever they want, use your facilities, eat your food, then you have a right to say that we should have open borders. But until you do all of those things, I don't want to hear it. Because if you are still protecting your home, which is the border of your kingdom, the four walls, the doors, the windows, those are the border to your kingdom, unless you're one of those people that has a security gate. If you're allowing unfettered access to your home, then feel free to talk about unfettered access to our country. But the thing about it is, none of you do that. None of you do that. Because most of you that are calling for this kind of stuff live in cityscape hellholes. You got bars on your windows, triple locks on your doors, 2 kinds of alarms on your car. But we're just supposed to let anybody come in and do whatever they want. Which reminds me of that certain police officer, police chief in Canada again. It was just give them whatever they want. It's better for you if you do that. This is why society is dying. And now my question is, does it deserve to die? Speaking of things that I wish would die, Kamala Harris being in the news cycle is one of those things. But we got to talk about it again, also because one of my former cohorts at Twitchy has been hired full-time at Town Hall, and this is one of her first pieces that I've been able to find over there. So here's a first look at Kamala Harris' campaign memoir. Oh boy. So on July 31st, Kamala Harris announced she was publishing a memoir titled 107 Days to discuss her intense, high-stakes, and ultimately failed presidential campaign. Now The Atlantic has some excerpts from the book. So I had to read it. You got to hear it. Throughout my career, I've maintained that people in positions of power must be required to ask of themselves, who am I not hearing from? Then make it their business to seek those folks out. I came to the White House knowing that people in the building needed to hear from a wider range of voices. The ones in your heads don't count, Kami Lama. Okay, sorry, back to the quoted part now. As vice president, I'd been given several roles by Joe Biden, but one role created for myself was one role I created for myself, was building up the diverse coalition that our party encompassed. I made it my business to get out there and make sure that no community was overlooked, especially those that had been taken for granted in the past. Black women. The Democrats' staunchest, most reliable voting bloc was one such community. The Belay in Indianapolis was one of a dozen Divine Nine gatherings I'd addressed since taking office. On this day, there was a new energy in the room. As I walked onto the stage, a black woman was slated to be the Democratic nominee for president, and it was us. And everyone there understood what it meant, that this would be a journey of both joy and pain. I was in a room full of people with whom, because of our shared experiences, certain words did not need to be said. There's an emotion that comes from being in a place where people see you, support you, know you. The kindness and the love in that room penetrated the armor I usually wore, armor I'd need to put back on as soon as I left that room. The biggest applause came when I started to say what I would do to restore the rights of Roe v. Wade when I am president. A roar erupted that drowned out the rest of that sentence. The roar told me that they could see it clearly for the first time. This could be, and it should be. It was not because of gender or because of race, but despite those things. She also discussed the elephant in the room, President Joe Biden's clear cognitive issues. The wheels on the bus go squish, 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 squish. Many people want to spin up a narrative of some big conspiracy at the White House to hide Joe Biden's infirmity. Here's the truth as I lived it. Joe Biden was a smart guy with long experience and deep conviction, able to discharge the duties of president. On his worst day, he was more deeply knowledgeable, more capable of exercising judgment, and far more compassionate than Donald Trump on his best. But at 82, Joe got tired. That's when his age showed in physical and verbal stumbles. I don't think it's any surprise that the debate debacle happened right after 2 back-to-back trips to Europe and a flight to the West Coast for a Hollywood fundraiser. I don't believe it was incapacity. If I believed that, I would have said so. As loyal as I am to President Biden, I am more loyal to my country. Bullshit. Oh, sorry. Damn, frog in my throat. Told you guys that screaming earlier was probably a bad thing. So Next quote, I was well aware of my delicate status. Lore has it that every outgoing chief of staff always tells the incoming president's chief of staff rule number one, watch the VP because I'd gone after him over busing in the 2019 primary debate. I came into the White House with what we lawyers call a rebuttable presumption. I had to prove my loyalty time and time again. When Fox News attacked me on everything from my laugh, that's not a laugh, ma'am, that's a cackle, to my tone of voice, to whom I dated in my 20s or claimed I was a DEI hire, as in DIE, or well, in my opinion, it should be DIE, but didn't earn it. Works out well for this one. The White House rarely pushed back with my actual resume. 2 terms elected DA, top cop in the second largest Department of Justice in the United States, senator representing 1 in 8 Americans. Lorraine Voles, my chief of staff, constantly had to advocate for my role at events. She's not going to stand there like a potted plant. Give her 2 minutes of remarks. Have her introduce the president. She also, and this is a quote from Amy, she also said she witnessed the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina while she was the district attorney of San Francisco. These kinds of briefings are sadly familiar to me as district attorney. I'd witnessed the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina. As senator, I'd been to Puerto Rico after Hurricane Maria, and I'd toured the communities in my home state that had been ravaged by wildfires. It was heartbreaking to see the scale of these losses and the exhausted faces of individuals standing in the ruins of a lifetime of work, a lifetime's dreams. It was infuriating to see how predators swarmed like cockroaches, price gouging, spreading misinformation. So the same day she announced the memoir, Harris sat down for a conversation with Late Show host Stephen Colbert. She explained why she was sitting out the California gubernatorial race, saying, I am a devout public servant. I've spent my entire career in the service of people, but to be very candid with you, recently I made the decision I don't want to go back in the system. I think it's broken. With her memoir being released on September 21, Kamala Harris is planning a 15-city book tour that kicks off in New York City on September 24th. She will also make stops in cities including Philadelphia, Los Angeles, Chicago, London, and Toronto. And if you want to be in the not cheap seats, folks, it's $2,000 a pop. I looked, just so you know. Even the nosebleed sections are like $150, which is insane to me. Can anybody say money laundering without necessarily saying money laundering? Anyway. So Mondami's back in the news and polling really well in New York City, which should terrify all of you. Get out while you can. So this is from Guy Benson. Zoran Mondami, as I call him, the commie. How dare my critics attack me for things I've said? The Democratic Party nominee for mayor in our nation's most populous city has also been called the cornerstone of the world's economic markets, is a young communist with zero executive experience at any level. Also, as far as I can tell, hasn't had a real job. He also despises law enforcement, as he's repeatedly made clear in public statements. He has called New York's police force wicked and corrupt, racist and anti-queer, among other smears. Responding to a tweet about an officer being spotted weeping in his patrol car, Zoran Mondami, the commie, reveled in the officer's pain. He mused that prisons serve no good purpose. He repeatedly called for NYPD to be defunded and even dismantled. So I'm going to stop right there for a second because I want to remind you guys where we were about, 10, 11 years ago. Only cops should have guns. Imagine if we'd fallen into that trap with now these people trying to get rid of the police departments altogether. I wonder why that is. So in making one of those many demands, he was clear that he had no interest in fake cuts, insisting on real, deep, meaningful cuts. In one interview, he suggested that $1 billion be slashed from the police budget. Wouldn't that course of action threaten public safety? Not according to Mondami, who said that the NYPD itself is a major threat to public safety. But now that Mondami, a wealthy scion of privilege and a staggering hypocrite to boot, can taste an electoral victory, he's pretending that all of his previous public statements are aren't legitimate targets for scrutiny. He says his critics are debating a mythical version of himself, exploiting comments that are out of step with his campaign. And just so you know, I'm not making it up. It's not a long clip, but we're going to play it anyway. If I can get my computer to work with me here. Oh, sure. Sure. One moment, please.
Many of my opponents, chiefly Andrew Cuomo, would prefer to debate a mythical version of myself than the person that I actually am. They would prefer to focus on tweets from 2020 as opposed to the platform of 2025. And they prefer to do that because they know that our ideas are actually popular. And what we are putting forward is a response to New Yorkers' needs that goes beyond the failed ideas and policies that they've heard from these old politicians.
What you're really saying is that those tweets of 2020, you've evolved from that. You've changed from that. You've changed your views.
Yes, that those are out of step with the campaign that we are running. And it's been clear throughout.
Out of step with how you feel.
Yes.
So you've totally changed your mind.
Yes.
Okay.
Many of my opponents, chiefly Andrew Cuomo, would prefer to debate a mythical version of myself than the...
It's not a mythical version of you, dude. The internet is forever. These are things that you actually said and you meant them. They're doing the Joe Biden thing. Joe Biden is, always was, and forever will be a racist piece of shit. But he's trying to whitewash everything that he ever said. I would like to remind you that the former president of the United States, who once had to stand down his campaign for being caught in blatant lies and a thing called plagiarism that isn't really discussed anymore, was also the same man who penned who penned an editorial once talking about the fact that he didn't want his children having to go to school in a racial jungle. Your ideas aren't popular, Mondami, except for in your own age group. That's the thing that I find the most disturbing. The 30 to 40 crowd these days are completely pro-commie, and it terrifies the shit out of me. Because I know people in that demographic that I used to work with, and I see them post things all the time on social media. We've tried this capitalist shit and it doesn't work. Maybe we should try communism. Maybe I wouldn't have to work so hard all the time if I didn't have to pay so much for everything. So, yes, if you think this is a fad and that it's eventually going to go away, not unless we kill it with fire. Because these people think this is the solution. He's right in the sweet spot of people that I know think this way. And again, not to put too fine a point on it, but if I was the Republican mayoral candidate and the president of the United States was coming out and supporting of Cuomo, I would be pissed. Because apparently there are rumblings that behind the scenes, Donald Trump is trying to make sure this thing gets down to a two-person race to try to make sure that Mondami doesn't get it. But he's willing to give it to the guy who killed grandparents in nursing homes during COVID to try to stop Mondami from getting into office. I'm going to say this again. When you're having to choose between the lesser of two evils, and honestly, neither of them are actually the lesser, I have a huge problem, as well should most of you. Right? So Dave just made a great point in the chat. It's funny how lefties go after we on the right for 10-year-old tweets, but we're supposed to ignore everything lefties said before right now. And again, I look, if you're watching this or listening from New York City, take what I'm about to say to you with a grain of salt, because if you're listening to shows like this, you are probably some of the people that are going to be trying to stop Mondami from winning the actual election. But I'm sorry, and I've said this about everything, including, Donald Trump starting to move National Guard folks into other cities and states. Let them have what they voted for. The only way they're ever going to learn that this shit doesn't work is if we finally let them try it, because that's what you hear from every single communist, everybody that's ever supported communism in the entire world. When it falls flat, that wasn't actual communism. I'm sorry. We need to try it for real, then it'll work. You know what? Let them fucking try. This is coming from the guy who eventually had to learn that tough love parenting is a thing. I'm as a kid, I was not a fan of my dad. I'm not gonna lie. he was really hard on me for all kinds of reasons that I didn't understand at the time. And I thought he was the biggest asshole on the planet. And he knows this because I've said it to him, which is why I'm okay with saying it to you. But I get it now. After having to raise children and watching them struggle and realizing that if I didn't do what I needed to do to make sure that they would be okay if I wasn't here anymore, I get it now. And I think the country is reaching that point. It's time for them to understand what will happen and be forced to live through what will happen if we're not here trying to keep the guardrails on. Because the left wants to talk about the removal of the guardrails. We're the ones doing everything we can to hold those guardrails in place with all of our might to try to make sure that something still exists that at least remotely resembles what our founding fathers wanted this country to be, because we're nearly not there anymore. And I think it's time for the tough love approach. So the options that we have right now are either an amicable split and the leftists get their utopia and we get ours and see which one survives, or eventually we're going to wind up in a civil war. And I don't see any way around it anymore. I used to say and I'm going to be honest, Jesse Kelly's been on this amicable split divorce thing for longer than I have been, and I thought he was crazy at first. I really did. I don't think he's so crazy anymore. I think it's time to let them get what they're voting for. And for those, but Rick, there's all kinds of voting irregularities and stuff that are finally being brought to our attention. Blah blah blah, yada yada yada. You know what? That's their job to clean that up, not ours. It's time. If these people want a commie as their mayor, let them have it. And then we can just sit back and watch as grocery store after grocery store after grocery store closes. After bus line after bus line after bus line breaks down because, everything's free now, so they don't have the money to fix anything when it breaks. Because the thing that commies never tell you is just because it's free for you doesn't mean it's free. I'll be honest, I really wish that we would at some point be able to figure out a way to evolve past the idea of needing currency for basic needs, but I don't know how we're ever going to get there. Because the biggest thing about life is incentive. There has to be a reason for you to want to get out of bed, and sometimes for you to need to get out of bed. There has to be motivation. Some people's motivation is survival. If your basic survival needs are being taken care of for you, your motivation goes away. And they know this. This is why there's an entire subculture of people that exist on government benefits. And they're not willing to get off of them either. Before anybody yells at me, I'm not necessarily talking about food stamps. Not completely. But there are people that I know that are on government payments, government housing, getting their food paid for with food stamps. So they don't do anything. They just sit around all day and watch TV because they've got enough money to pay their bills, they've got enough money for food, and they've got enough money for housing because they're getting it all pretty much subsidized by us. So they don't really feel the need to do anything. And even if they do work, they usually work long enough to not get anything flagged from the folks that they're getting the federal money from, and then they quit, and then they move on to another one a few months later just to get a little bit extra money so they can get the next big flat screen. I mean, and I'm not trying to sound like a dick. I'm really not, but it's time for these people to get what they voted for. I will say this as we're getting ready to have to close out the show. I was really surprised to see that Donald Trump is sending ice raids and stuff into Arkansas, because according to the lefties, that was never going to happen. I also don't really know what happened to Sarah Huckabee Sanders, because I saw her on camera today, and yeah, she don't look like she used to, and I mean that in a complimentary way. All right, that's it. We're done. We got to get out of here. Don't forget, I'll be back tonight starting at 7 p.m. Eastern with my good friends from Inquiry, 8 p.m. Eastern, Toxic Masculinity, our once-a-month foray into everything the media tells you should hate about being a dude with our bar babe bringing a drink. That is with myself, the conservative curmudgeon. Then we also have Andrew, our pole dude. And then we also have the Amish one. For those of you who don't know, go find and follow Aggie the Barkeep. I think, yeah, Aggie the Barkeep on X. Her main account has been stolen from her. We're working on trying to get that recovered. But we got to go, folks. I want to thank everybody for taking the time to tune in. Started slow, ended strong. Want to thank everybody for helping to push the feeds out. Again, if you're new around here, make sure you are liking, subscribing, sharing the feeds. The dreaded algorithms hate anything conservative. Bye, everybody. We got to go. It's over.
What? Over? Did you say over? Nothing is over until we decide it is. Was it over when the Germans bombed Pearl Harbor? Hell no!
Closing time. Open all the doors and let you out into the woods.
This isn't over until I say it's over!
Closing time.
Well, that's great. This is fucking great, man. Now what the fuck are we supposed to do? Game over, man. It's game over.
Closing time. Time for you to go out to the places you will be from. Closing time. This room won't be open till your brothers or your sisters come.
I love you, Oklahoma. What a great crowd. I love you.
Say goodnight, Gracie.